Tear one off. What's the Wi-Fi here?
I think it's gonna be something with, planning, or, you know,
It'll say WC,
there you go.
public and public,
Okay.
and I'm on A.
So we have 5 attendees already in.
Wait, no, that turns to 31.
Very good.
Thank the co-op.
I love it.
It's just me.
There goes the neighborhood.
Point the nail at him.
Both of you.
Oh, that's it. I think I deserve that more than Dave.
Yeah, we were meant for you.
It's always meant for you, then.
I know, I know. It starts at home.
Yeah, is that okay?
Started. Good evening. The January 23rd, 2025 Whatcom County Planning Commission meeting is called to order. Call the roll. Calvin Barton, that's me. Joel Desmani, here. Anita Eisenberg,
Here.
Jim Hansen. Jim Hansen. Stephen Jackson. Stephen Jackson. Julie Jefferson.
Here.
Frank James.
Here.
Dominic Masseri.
Here.
Scott Van Dalen.
Here.
Please join me for the flag salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, it's time for a department update and our planning director. Mark Porcellia, will you give us the update?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, everybody. Couple of items, just a quick update for you. Next week, council, we've got 2 public hearings on the 5290 permitting regulation updates and on the Lummi Island Heights code amendments. So those will both be had public hearings Tuesday night next. The other thing I wanted to let you know was we had a really good meeting this afternoon. It just got over a little bit ago with the city and county elected officials in Ferndale. And these are meetings that the electeds hold periodically to discuss GMA issues and comp plan update issues. So all the cities are there represented, the mayors are there, some of the city council members are there, and some of our county council members are there, and our county executives there. So they had a really robust, good conversation today about, in particular about UGA planning, some of the issues about ways to try to improve or increase development in the unincorporated municipal UGAs that have been kind of stalled. There's not much happening in those UGAs in some cases. And so I had a good conversation with the electeds about that. So that's something we're going to be kind of looking forward to as we go through the comp plan update process. Maybe some new policies that would encourage some joint planning for some of those UGAs or ways to amend how we go about how the county and the cities go about managing those urban growth areas, trying to find ways that would increase, or incentivize development, potential there. So that was really good. We will also be discussing with council on Tuesday afternoon, at committee of the whole, the population deployment, projections, for the cities and the county. Tuesday, we're gonna start with focusing on the rural resource land allocations, with council to talk through that. And then, we're anticipating holding another special meeting with the council on February 4th. And again, on the regular meeting on February 11th to have the city planners come in and make the presentations that they made to you guys, to the county planning commission, but the council hasn't seen those yet. So to kind of have those, invite the city planners to come in and make the case, the rationale for what they're asking for in terms of their preferred growth allocations and their scenarios, like issues in each of those cities is facing. They're all different. And kind of what their preferred targets are. So that'll be the next couple, 3 to 4 weeks of sort of engaging the council, deep dive on that stuff. So, and had a good conversation today with the electeds about that as well. So, because the cities are eager to get some numbers sort of agreed to, so they can start doing their capital facility line. So, and that, when do we want to say, Eileen, to our commissioners, say goodbye. Thank you.
Would that be towards the end of our meeting, or would you like it to be?
Well, let's do it now. I think.
I can leave then, actually.
I want to say thank you, to, Commissioner, Deshmani, Commissioner Jackson, and Commissioner James, for your service and your dedication to service and your time on the planning commission. Eileen has some very special gifts. She'll be, sending you and, that you can put up in, and on your walls. And I just want to say thank you. Council has elected, or appointed, 3 new commissioners that will start at your annual business meeting and next meeting in February. And so, this will be your last meeting for those 3 commissioners. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your dedication and your help and your involvement throughout your terms here. We really appreciate that. Miss you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for your excellent leadership in terms of managing process. You do an outstanding job, and it's very much appreciated by myself, and I think everyone else. Having that neutral stance and really facilitating the process is a special skill, and I really appreciate the work that you do to make that happen.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Thank you. The old saying in the planning business is process is our product, quite a bit of the time. And and you guys are just key, certainly a part of that process and key components that make that process work. So I want to thank you guys for that. But now you'll have your Thursday nights on. So
Yeah, and do our spa memberships end at the end of this month, or do they continue for the rest of the year? What? They never told me. All these years.
get your key card? You know the county's got some budget issues, right?
Let's put it on the line.
I wondered if I should just say this is getting to the out of order. I don't think I've ever done that.
No, because you guys are so orderly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Back on track.
well, thank you, and thank you all 3.
And Frank, and for Stephen, Eileen will mail you some beautiful certificates to hang on your wall as a token of our appreciation. So.
Yes, thank you so much for your service.
Okay, well, it's time now for open session for public comment. Eileen is our planning commission coordinator. Would you take over?
Yes. Welcome to the meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live. The audio is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. As noted on our website, members of the public may watch the meeting or join online or by phone. During the open public comment session, speakers may not speak to the items that are scheduled on the agenda for our public hearing tonight. So that would be our countywide planning policies. That will be our public hearing. So you may not talk about any subject with that. If you would like to provide public comment at this time, we will take comments from those in the room first. Please come up to the podium and print your full name on the sign-up sheet. Would anyone in the room wish to speak at this time? Seeing no one in the room, do we have any attendees that are joining in that would wish to speak? I see David Stauheim. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Again, you may not speak to anything with the public hearing tonight. Would you like to speak, have a public comment, David?
Yes, you got me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. David Stahlheim. Appreciate the opportunity. As Director Personius just said, the County Council is about to take up the conversation next week again about the population projections and allocations to the cities. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that we're spending all this time between the Planning Commission and County Council and City Councils on something that is a non-binding resolution. So it's non-binding. The cities want numbers because they want them to be bound, but it's a non-binding resolution. So it really has no effect. But we're spending countless hours working on this. So anyhow, there's better things to do. But if it's going to go forward to the County Council, as I just started glancing at the packet for the County Council, some things that I noticed is that, number one, there's no summary of public input. So all the input that was given to the Planning Commission is not forwarded to the County Council at all. So there's nothing on the legislative record for that. And I think that's a mistake, and hopefully that'll be corrected. So there's no summary of it. There's none of the comments, whether it's from our group, Whatcom Environmental Council, or from others that I know have commented on it. There's no meeting minutes from the Planning Commission meeting that's there. And so none of that information is getting to County Council. So what they do have is new letters from the cities, and that's appropriate for that to happen. But they're not getting other perspectives and expertise that was brought to the table. So I think that's a mistake. It's really not in concert with the public participation record. So it is important for this stuff to get good information. I listened to this elected officials meetings today and heard some incorrect information that was provided to elected officials from staff regarding UGA swaps and things like that. And so there's other information out there. There's other expertise out there. I encourage the Planning Commission and others to look for that information and kind of weed through it. It's coming from different parties and different perspectives, but hopefully you go through that, and there's good staff at the county and at the cities as well. So anyhow, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else attending remotely wish to speak at this time? Seeing no one?
Thank you. So time now for commissioner comments. Commissioner comment. Commissioner Desmani.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's my last meeting. I've enjoyed serving with all of you, and I'm really happy that I think we've done a great job over the last 8 years as planning commission, getting more. I think we get more respect today than we did 8 years ago, and it's definitely a team effort. Why that's the case, I'm really hopeful. I mean, these new people that are joining, like what exceptional backgrounds they're bringing to the table. So it's gonna get even better. I'm glad to make space for that. And also want to extend an open offer that, we have some members that are new or and members that might like to have some support, or have someone to bounce something off of, I'm not gonna come to these meetings. I'm not gonna pay attention to it, but if anybody is interested in, chatting on the planning commission, you know, to bounce, am I crazy that the PDS handed me this in the packet? Am I crazy? And, I'd be more than happy to support any of you, with a reasonable notice. So I just wanted to share that as well. So.
Commissioner Masseri?
Yeah, if we approve the minutes, tonight, would they get forwarded on to the council so they can review those? I didn't realize with, because my assumption was, and I think after, when we were finishing that, it really helps explain kind of where we got or didn't get to, and I realized now that, yeah, well, the meetings wouldn't be in that packet, because we hadn't approved them yet, but I think it might be helpful for them.
Can do.
Commissioner James?
I got three brief things to say. The first is that I believe that what I would like to tell the council is that I think there was general consensus. What I heard the cities say and what I heard many commissioners say was those mid-population projections that the state does should be the cap on population. And I think the distribution, but how that gets distributed between the cities, I think we should leave up to them with that total cap in place. And if they can come up with a way to distribute that population amongst themselves, where there's the true capacity for growth and the true ability to grow, I think that, to my way of thinking, would be the way forward. To just add more population growth without, really having any realistic expectation, I think is inappropriate. And I think those state numbers that mid number is the most likely number to be right. And there's all kinds of other agendas besides accurate population projections in terms of growth and development. The two other things are just to share briefly why I got on the commission and what I had hoped to achieve. One is that we're at a pivotal time. Right now is a time when environmental changes are happening rapidly and sometimes in the most severe ways. Some of us forget those days when there were catastrophic impacts right here. When the forest fires were taking place and wildfire smoke was abundant in our community, as a county health officer and as a tribal health officer, I can tell you, I worried about elders surviving that time. I myself found myself on Yellow Aster Butte. The wind changed. I have severe asthma. I almost had to come out in a helicopter. And thankfully, I had a mask with me that would filter those things out. Those people forget about that too quickly. Those things are coming back to us. And in your decisions as you go forward in trying to make a comprehensive plan for the future, I really hope that people pay attention to the fact that we're approaching tipping points we can't go back over. We've already gone over the most important one. 1.2 degrees is in our rearview mirror. Never again, these incredibly high temperatures we're seeing, it's never going to get colder. It's only going to get warmer. There is no reason to believe that's not the case, none at all from a scientific basis. And the things that we project we need to do with that in mind. The second thing that I think is really important is I've worked with tribes in this community for 30 years. And one of the things I hope to do is to bring a voice of tribal awareness. Obviously, there's some work we've got given today from the Lummi tribe. I hope we can listen to their input. But they have not been treated fairly many times. When they identified 9 illegal water withdrawals in the Nooksack River, a body of water that grows below in-stream minimum flow, that is too turbid, too warm, and too little flow to sustain the salmon that they rely on for their religion, for their spiritual wellness, and for their financial well-being. 9 places were identified with major withdrawals without a permit. The Department of Ecology chose to do a very unusual thing, and many of you are aware of it. They put those 9 farms ahead of hundreds of other people waiting in line to get a water permit and gave them a water permit absolutely inappropriately and unilaterally. Other things still take place. There was 40 acres of blueberries. Some of you are familiar with this in the city of Linden. They were put in, a community group bought that 40 acres. They clearly were preparing it to plant 40 acres of blueberries, 40 acres of something. They were told unequivocally by ecology, don't do it. When they actually put the plants in, they were told unequivocally by ecology they can't do that and they can't accept water. They went ahead and took water illegally and they got fined. They got fined $12,000, which is just a tax on doing business. There's so much profit in those blueberries that it isn't an effective deterrent to people doing that. They're still doing it. I tried to find out who they were, and it was really difficult to do. I did find out that the former county executive's daughter is their attorney. The degree to which there is collusion, their degree to which there is literally illegal activity going on is something that we choose not to acknowledge or to explore or to adequately protect the public against, honestly. And I hope that those are things that you can do. The tribes have been taken advantage of in so many ways. And the whole process of legal wrangling over water, I think they will clearly win in the end. I also think it's going to take years for that to happen. And in the meantime, I think the salmon that they depend on are going to go extinct. So I just hope that you can navigate what I see as an extraordinarily difficult time. In our room, in these meetings, I think we don't give appropriate credence to the very difficult situation we're in. As a healthcare provider, I can tell you we are in dangerous, dangerous times, and I don't see a good, clear path forward. And the work that you're going to do in framing this long-term growth plan for our county is pivotal. We do not need more cars. We do not need more growth in our rural areas. We need to be responsible and focus on the fundamentals so that we get a safe environment for everyone. So I wish you the best. I'm sorry I didn't show up to more meetings. When I asked the county council why I was not renewed, they said I didn't make enough meetings. I'm sorry. I was down. I was getting out of work, other jobs that I have. I was doing the work I needed to do to work with you for the next few years to try to make a good plan. The people that are coming in are extraordinary. They're also the product of the Old Boys Club. We have a developer, we have a builder, and we have a very smart young man that I hope makes an adequate contribution to really make up for all the deficiencies I had. He seems smarter and more informed than me. But I think there is a real tendency to do what is in the business world's interest and not what's in the environmental interest, certainly not what's in the tribal interest. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to keep that broader perspective in mind. So thanks, everybody. And I don't mean to be preachy, but I am, because that's the last chance I get to talk to you. So thank you.
Brad, you're the smart young man.
I'm not sure that's what he meant.
Thanks, Frank.
Any other question or comment? Approval of minutes for the December 12th meeting.
I'll make a motion and approve the minutes.
I can second it.
Okay, we have a motion. Second to approve the minutes. Are there any corrections or comments? Seeing none. If I'm not doing it well, we have some remote up there. Eileen, would you go ahead and call the roll?
Yes. Eisenberg,
Yes, approve.
Jefferson,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mosseri,
Yes.
Van Dalen.
Yeah.
Deshwani,
Yes.
Hanson. Sorry. Hanson.
Come on, Jim.
Sometimes he has technical issues.
Okay, and Barton.
Yes.
Passes. He did it right at 6:34.
Right, so, the meeting topic tonight will have a public hearing and a work session. And, it's the countywide planning policy. And planning director Mark Bertonia, would you take over and present?
Matt Ahmed, senior planner Matt Ahmed is gonna lead
Oh.
this effort.
I apologize, Matt,
Not a problem.
I'm forgotten.
So for the record, my name is Matt Ahmet, representing Planning and Development. And the Growth Management Act was amended in 1991 to require counties to adopt countywide planning policies in cooperation with the cities. And the GMA states that a countywide planning policy is a written policy statement or statements used solely for establishing a countywide framework from which county and city comprehensive plans are developed and adopted. So the Whatcom County countywide planning policies were originally adopted by the County Council in 1993 and last amended in 2021. The GMA was amended in 2022 and 23 to require that countywide planning policies must address tribal cultural resources and climate change and resiliency. So the City County Planner Group developed proposed amendments to address these two topics and otherwise update the policies. And we worked with the county's climate manager, and she helped us out with the climate policies. She's here this evening. So Whatcom County and the 7 cities had entered into an interlocal agreement concerning procedures for amending the countywide planning policies, and that became effective in March 2023. And under that interlocal, the county executive initiated the countywide planning policy amendments. And so the Planning Commission is holding a hearing tonight on the draft amendments. And after the Planning Commission issues recommendations, the County Council Committee of the Whole will review the policies. And then they'll go to the city councils that will consider approval of the policies, and then back to the County Council for final adoption in an ordinance. So the Lummi Nation submitted proposed changes to the Countywide Planning Policy S relating to tribal cultural resources. The City County Planner Group endorsed these changes with minor modifications, and we sent those out in an email of January 22nd. So we would like to incorporate that into our proposal. And then the Planning Commission received several other comment letters more recently. And we would recommend that after, at the end of this evening, after your discussion and everything, that the Planning Commission ask the City County Planner Group to make recommendations on the public comment letters. And then Planning Commission could come back at the February 27th meeting to consider the City County recommendations. So that concludes our report. And if you had any questions, we try to address those. We would note that we have some city planners here this evening also. So Chris Behe from Bellingham, Carson Cortez from Sumas, and Roland Harper is Nooksack Everson Sumas.
Thank you, Matt. So, any questions? We need to have a public hearing. And any questions for Matt? Commissioner Desmond?
I just want to make sure when you say, what do you have as far as comment letters that you want to wait till after this meeting to process? There's one for FutureWise. Did you get the one from Christina McGinnis?
I don't think I received that.
I just forwarded it to Eileen.
Forwarding it.
I've got,
Just,
Geyer and Associates.
and then there's guy, yeah.
yeah, so what we've got FutureWise.
Yep.
Geyer.
Washed up.
They didn't send it to the planning commission for public comment. I forwarded it to you right now.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, so yeah.
Great, thank you.
These, the countywide planning policies, as Matt said, have to be jointly, approved by all the cities and the county. So that's why we have these comments that have come in that Matt hasn't been able to meet with the city planners on yet to review and endorse. That's gonna take some time. So that's why we have to go back to the city planner group, review those, and then come back to you guys with a recommendation. That's what we'd like to do. At the second meeting in February. Because your first meeting will be the annual business meeting and the seating of the new commissioners.
Right. Being that we have no more questions for Matt, we need to open the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing. Eileen, can you take over, please?
Yes. I remind you that this meeting is being broadcast live. The audio is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. If you would like to provide public comment on this topic, we will take comments from those in the room first. Please come up to the podium and print your full name on the sign-up sheet. Do we have anyone? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Dan Dunn. My name down here. I'm gonna wear two hats today. So with appendix C, my first hat is as the chair of the Whatcom County Housing Advisory Committee. So in appendix C, section G, affordable housing, just wanted to thank you guys for incorporating virtually all of our comments from the memo we submitted earlier this year. So I always appreciate that. Second hat is as the immediate past chair of the Whatcom County Business and Commerce Advisory Committee, which is sort of affiliated with Port. And wanted to thank you for taking in many of our comments on section I, economic development. So everything else that are in there, I passed around to friends and folks. Looks good. No other real comments on it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room wish to speak? Seeing no one in the room wishing to speak, we will move to those attending virtually. If you wish to speak at this time, please raise your hand. I will have a 3-minute timer. And I see Bill Geyer. Do you wish to speak at this time?
Yes, I do. Clarification, did you say 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Bill Geyer, Geyer and Associates. I've been a professional planner for 48 years, and I am certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have 3 topics that relate to the application of good planning principles to the countywide planning policies. The first one is to speak in favor of having the policies reflect the ability of the recently adopted state requirement, or state option for cities to swap UGA areas. It's an appropriate step, I think, to allow local elected officials to look at their existing boundaries, and if they wish to reduce them and to swap acreage out of their UGA and add acreage in. I think that's a good principle that should have some language within your policies to allow that to occur. The second point I want to touch on is affordable housing. Thank you to the staff and commissioners recognizing my previous letter of the 19th. And as I stated in there, 3670-070-2D, as in Delta, speaks to affordable housing and housing for all income brackets within the county. And I think one specific thing that the county could do is look at those areas that were previously in the urban growth boundaries that the county relegated to a much lower density. And the impact, as I stated in my letter and previous testimony, was significant on those existing houses and lots that were in either RR2 or other UR4 areas that are now R5 and R10A. It's difficult for those lots and houses now being non-compliant with the code because of they typically experience a premium in any mortgages that they pursue in their sales of the homes or improvement. And there's also additional things that are required permitting wise. And these households are typically low and moderate income locations. The other piece in my previous testimony, there is a location of a client I'm representing at 4610 Lincoln Road that has 20 acres that she has committed, that greater than 1/2 of any units that could be developed if it goes into the UGA would be for long-term permanent affordable housing. And that relates then to the final point. I call your attention to HB 1164, which has broad support under review right now, that states when a boundary to the UGA is a road, that the parcels across the street from the road should also be included within that UGA boundary. The reasoning is very simple because water, sewer, and other infrastructure, you need to amortize those costs. across both sides of the road. And using a road as a boundary is not very functional because it does not take into context of the land uses around it. So I appreciate your time tonight. Please, I also thank you for saying that the letters we submitted will have specific responses. Please route them. We appreciate your work and thank you for your diligence. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else attending remotely wish to speak on this topic? Harry, do you wish to speak at this time?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Perry Eskridge, representing the Building Industry Association of Whatcom County and the Whatcom County Association of Realtors. The only comment I had was looking at the language regarding the UGA. It specifically refers to Geneva and Hillsdale as examples. I don't think it's appropriate to include those two areas as both an example of what a UGA should be and what a UGA should not be. It's a little bit confusing and leaves somebody, you know, that maybe doesn't have the expertise that you do, wondering, well, then what exactly does it mean? And so I thought those were very odd examples to include because, you know, especially at the local comp plan coordinating council, a lot of the elected officials are stating that, you know, with regards to UJA swaps, those two examples primarily are seriously being considered by the municipality to which they're attached as coming out. And so I think it would be better to go look for another example or two of what UGA should be. I think they're excellent examples of what a UGA should not be, but maybe find better examples of what UGAs should and really must accomplish under the Growth Management Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else attending remotely wish to speak at this time? I do see someone attending using a phone. If you would wish to speak, please, you can join in by pressing *6. Seeing no one. There are no other speakers.
Thank you. So we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Bismarck.
I'd like staff to address the comment by Perry Eskridge about the examples for UGAs and
Yeah, let me
go ahead, Matt. Thank
oh,
you.
I was just gonna bring it up here. Can I replace? Yeah, okay. All right, so you can see that Appendix C, countywide planning policies. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So Geneva appears 2 times in the same policy, and it's not really an example of a UGA. It's just saying it's a special case. So Geneva and Hillsdale are in the Bellingham UGA, but they're also in the Lake Whatcom watershed. So it's just recognizing that they, you know, they're in the UGA, but really not future development is desirable there. Bellingham has talked about maybe proposing to take those out. You know, that's being studied in the EIS, but Bellingham has not formally proposed that yet. And I don't know, Chris Behe, if you have any additional comments on that?
Hi, Chris Behe, City of Bellingham. I don't have anything to add to what Matt said. It's just other than, like you said, it is being studied in the EIS. It is one of the areas along with the suitability analysis areas that are being considered, again, for either leaving in the UGA or potentially removing them based on what our planning commission and city council feel they're comfortable with. But that decision hasn't been made yet, so.
So yeah, if Bellingham proposes to take these out, we'd probably have to either remove or modify. Well, I guess modify this policy, probably delete those 2 areas, so.
Commissioner Masseri.
Yeah, is there any reason you need, is there any reason you need to list any specific UGA there, knowing that UGAs change? And also, yeah, specifically those two seem like very odd ones to put in saying that they shouldn't be developed. So I would, to me, it would make more sense to take them out. Do you think there's any reason to leave them in?
I think they were probably just in there because they're not standard or typical UGAs. They're in the watershed. There's been development out there, so they have some level of urban development. But further urban development isn't really desirable. Like Geneva has a density of 1 dwelling per 5 acres, even though it's, somewhat developed already. It does have sewer from Lake Whatcom Water and sewer district and water. So yeah, I think it was just a recognition that it's different than pretty much every other urban growth area.
Do you see any issue with removing them from that policy?
I wouldn't think so. I know, Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think Bellingham would object to having those removed from that policy at all. I don't think it relates. There's nothing there that provides any direction on how we administer the protection of the watershed. It's just an acknowledgement that those areas are within the watershed. So I don't think that would change any city policies. So I don't think there would be any objection to that.
So if you just left the first sentence and, proposed deleting the rest, that would probably be, the way to go if you want to do that.
I would make a motion that we leave that first sentence and remove the rest of paragraph 2 or item 2.
This is Frank, I second that.
Frank, was that a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Discussion on that? If there is no discussion, Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hanson? He's having trouble with his mic. Hanson? Okay. Deshmani?
Yes.
Jefferson? Jefferson?
Yes. Yes.
James?
Yes.
Osiri?
Yes.
Van Dalen?
Yes.
Eisenberg?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Passes.
Yeah, we did send out, I mentioned that email with the elimination language that the city county planning group kind of tweaked a little bit. I think that was just yesterday. So I guess that's something that we would like incorporated in here also. So I don't know if you want to just consider that incorporation or make a motion to that effect, perhaps, or.
Could you put that on the screen?
Yes, Matt, could you bring that up on the screen for us?
Yes, let me find that.
I was also wondering, Matt, if you could summarize it to some extent, a little more specific than the generality.
Yes, let's see here. Okay. Okay, so the Elimination sent us an email, I think it was maybe January 9th or something like that. We put it in track changes format, which this is. So the Elimination's proposed changes are in red. And then the city county planning group just made a couple minor tweaks, mostly with capitalization and stuff like that. So I think, they added, government consultation, also management of protocols and resources. They put in their federal, state, local law, compliance. They put in affirm treaty rights. And then let's see here, talked about affected tribes, to identify, protect, and manage resources in compliance with federal, state, and local laws. So yeah, the laminations changes are red, and then we just have those yellow tweaks by the city county planner group.
I'd move acceptance of the document that was before us.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Chair, if I could restate, it's basically the staff's recommendations for, in response to the lamination letter. Amendments.
Explain that just a little bit.
For clarification, we're talking about staff's modifications, amendments to the code for the comp plan, based on the lamination letter, just clarifying. I just wanted to clarify comment.
I believe it would actually be the accepting the LUMI recommendation as modified by the council, as modified by the staff.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Yeah.
Eileen, do you have that motion? Will you, Commissioner James, will you restate that?
I'd move that we accept the proposed language on tribal cultural resources from the Lummi tribe as a modification, and further to accept the minor corrections offered by staff.
Can we just change that tribe to nation in your motion?
Good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
So tribal nation cultural resources. Julie, is that what you had in mind?
No, just
I think Lummi Nation cultural resources. In your motion.
It would be Lummi and Nooksack both, I think. So I think that their intention is for it to be of any tribal, either tribe or nation, and Nooksacks refer to themselves as a tribe, and the Lummis refer to themselves as a nation. So it's a little.
I apologize for interrupting. I just meant that when you said Lummi tribe, that it should be Lummi Nation.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. So Lummi Nation and the tribal cultural resources. Yeah, if that's so. Let me try again. I would move that the Lummi Nation recommended language on tribal cultural resources be accepted as written, with the changes, really Scribner's changes by the staff to increase clarity, be adopted.
We're pausing for a moment.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure it's correct. To adopt the lamination and the tribal cultural resources.
Actually, to adopt the Lummi Nation's recommended changes to tribal cultural resources. Yeah. Section.
Okay. Proposal. Okay, to adopt the Lummi Nation's proposal of the tribal cultural resources and accept the modification provided by staff. Is that what I heard?
Great.
Sorry?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Who had the second?
And Jefferson seconded.
All right, any discussion, commissioners? Yeah, I'm just looking here. Okay, seeing there's no discussion. Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ben Dalen,
Yes.
Jefferson.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I apologize. Jim is asking that he be acknowledged and unmuted.
I do not have, I can only ask him to unmute. I just emailed him. I can't force him to unmute.
He was asking to be unmuted. I'll let him know that it's on his side.
Yeah.
My apologies for interrupting.
No worries. And Jefferson, what is your vote?
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Wasseri,
Yes.
Hanson. Oh, he said he approves. Eisenberg,
Yes.
Deshwani,
Yes.
Barton,
Yes.
passes.
Commissioner Masseri.
I have a question on C11. Can't. Looking at number 12, but we can't see. Oh, yeah. So number 12 on C11.
Oh, C11, okay. Oh, page C11, okay.
Yeah,
Page C11.
sorry.
Oh, page 11.
So if I read this right, there looks like there's a zoning change happening here. Zoning things from R5 to R10. What exactly what properties is that relating to?
Okay, let me read this here.
That's a big change.
Okay, so this happened probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. So the kind of the origin of this was that they're in the urban growth areas. Let's take the Ferndale urban growth area, because I think Ferndale brought this up a decade ago or more. Basically, they were concerned that in their urban growth area, it was UR4, urban residential 4 dwellings per acre, but you had to have public water and sewer to develop at that density. And if you didn't have public water and sewer, then it was 1 dwelling per 5 acres. And Ferndale and all the other cities have policies that they do not extend public water outside their city limits. So they were concerned that let's say you had a 20-acre parcel, you divide it into 4 or 5 acre parcels, you put a house in the middle in their urban growth area. Then when they go to annex it, it can be difficult to redevelop at urban densities. So at that time, 10 or 15 years ago or whenever it was, the county changed the UR4 zone from 1 dwelling per 5 acres to 1 dwelling per 10 acres if you didn't have public water and sewer, to kind of keep more land for future urban level development when it was annexed. So this policy change was simply recognizing what had happened 10 or 15 years ago. And now, like at today's discussion with the elected officials, and Ferndale's made similar overtures. They're still concerned about the level of development in urban growth areas before they annex. So I don't know if council's going to want to revisit that 1 dwelling per 10 acre or not, but that has been a point of discussion. But this is simply recognizing what has been for some time.
Okay, so nothing's actually changing with this new verbiage.
No, but there may be discussion. Yeah, I mean, the cities may bring up discussion that we want less density than 1 per 10. I mean, that's kind of some of the comments.
Yeah.
So
Commissioner Desmond.
Yeah, I mean, so isn't this an ad hoc way of addressing what the cities really want to do, which is basically prevent rural type of development in the urban growth area?
Mhm.
So why do 5, why do 10, why do 15 or 50? Why do you just not allow, can you not allow? Non-city approved development in urban growth areas, or would that be crossing a line that we can't do?
Well, that would probably set off the red flashing lights to say you can't do anything on your property.
There'd be a lot of phone calls.
Okay. So this is a ad hoc way of addressing a problem, but so they may ask for this, as city councils and county councils may say, we want this to be 15. 1 dwelling per 15 acres or 20 acres.
Yeah, I think that discussion has already been brought up, not to the extent that, should we rezone, but they're concerned about that issue of development, kind of rural development in the UGAs that make it difficult to redevelop later at urban densities, so.
Commissioner Masseri.
Matt, if this does come back to us with a different density there in the future, could we see what kind of impact that looks like as far as maybe some kind of map or that, just so it's
it's not just it looks like a simple change when it's just changing the number, but it's gonna impact potentially a lot of properties.
Yeah, I
So,
think our GIS personnel could probably estimate, how many dwelling units that would equate to if you went from R5 to or excuse me, 10 acre to 20 acre, or whatever number is picked, so. Like I said, that's been discussion. We haven't received actual direction from the county council yet on that, though.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Just coming back to Eileen for a second. What's the code when you're on the phone to punch into?
Star
Get in.
6.
Star 6. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Desmani.
I mean, Chair, is this a perfect time to start going through some of our comments on the code? And you did on C11. I've got some comments too that I'd like to go to then. Okay, so on page C10.
Bring that back up.
Under 8. So there's in the Lemmy Nations request, they use the term consultation. Here, you're saying should work with or should coordinate with. I'm wondering, Matt, if you can take a look at this document and try to use consistent language. I've seen a few different variations of coordinate with, work with, consult with. And of course, I trust your judgment of what the right verbiage is, but just take a look at that if you don't mind.
Okay.
Look, do a global search on the word with and figure out which and so it's logically clear. Minimize the number of words. That's a minor thing. I want to hop to now to C20.
Is that
Page
page?
C20.
Okay.
Under impact fees. And I'm doing this purely as public service for Commissioner Jim Hansen. Because I know he cares about impact fees and I know he's not able to communicate here. So under impact fees, I'm concerned, and it's a question to staff, under L2, impact fees. Why is it just a school district? Because in L1, you specifically said it's transportation improvements, parks and schools. Why is it you're only allowing schools to trigger a review of impact fees? Shouldn't we allow kind of more, a broader ability to trigger an assessment of appropriate impact fees?
Yeah, I think there's 4 things that are allowed to have impact fees. I don't know why the original had only, they have transportation, parks, and schools. The only other thing that's allowed, I think, under GMA is fire districts. So we could add, under number 1, let's see, are encouraged to adopt fair, such as we could put, fire improvements or, get some
We
language.
do have a park district, I know that. We have a park district out in East County.
Yeah. Yep.
So why don't you say when requested by a district and get rid of the word school?
Good.
I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I just noticed that. And I'm
Matt.
sure.
Yeah,
Excuse me, Matt, this is Chris from Bellingham. I think, if I remember right, I think policy number 1 under L relates to impact fees levied by cities and counties. And policy 2 is related specifically to the school district and the school impact fees because they set those under their own capital improvement plan, whereas the cities and counties control parks, transportation, we control those impact fees.
Although the county does and the cities would need to adopt, they've got schools here under 1 also. So, the county council or the city council would need to actually adopt the impact fee ordinance. But yeah, it's got 3 of the 4. I don't know why it doesn't have fire in there. But that, that could be added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why number 2 just has schools. Maybe there was some type of discussion or request or something when these were originally adopted, you know, back in the 90s.
But that looks like it's new code, isn't it?
Just the red line language. So before there was it just related to schools, and it was the kind of idea here was that the county would help with their formulas, their like how much it costs, which we normally don't get into that much. You know, that's their business. They normally would hire a consultant or something to determine, you know, per home, how many students it would generate, the financial impact given their capital facilities plan, you know, that type of thing. So it was just made a little bit more general. It always applied just to schools, but we just kind of refined it a little bit, taking out formulas and just we you know provide inputs like you know growth projections and things like that, and we work with them, but uh, they will often get a consultant to you know develop the plan. I think Chris didn't the Bellingham School District get a consultant to do the school capital plan?
Yeah, they've updated theirs a few times, and it's usually a consultant, and then we provide information to them. But yeah, they work with a consultant to arrive at a single and multifamily unit fee that makes sense, and then we adopt that.
Okay, so Matt, will you propose a revision to L2 or should I propose something?
Why don't I can talk to the city planner group. I think really, I mean, 2 things could be done here. Fire could be added under number 1, and we could say school or fire district under number 2. You know, parks is, we have a county parks department, transportation is county public works. So kind of the county is automatically involved anyway.
And there's a county park district and not near an incorporated area out in East County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's several park districts. I think they have taxing authority that they can vote on that.
Yeah, they do. I was the chairman of the park district within Bellingham, and they do have taxing authority. But it is limited.
Okay, so you'll propose something for the next meeting, next work session.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to take, you know, this to the city planner group too, but my thought would be to add fire to L1, and then L2, we could make that school and fire district.
Do you need a motion to that or you just take that?
I can just probably take it unless you know.
Hey,
Commissioner.
Roland Harper here. I support what Matt is suggesting. That makes good sense. Appreciate bringing that up because yeah, the fire district sometimes needs support as well as the school districts in getting that adopted.
Kind of torn here between whether we let Matt come back with it this way or if we want to. Commissioner Desmond, do you want to put it in a motion?
Yeah, sure, I'll put it in a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. Yeah, I'll just make a motion to ask staff to revisit L1 and L2. In collaboration with the city planner group. And bring it to the next work session.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks.
All right, is there any discussion on this?
A muffin came in handy.
They do.
Okay.
Little sugar.
And then would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Deshmani,
Yes.
Eisenberg,
Yes.
Hanson. Jefferson,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Osiri,
Yes.
Van Dalen,
Yes.
Barton,
Yeah.
passes.
Commissioner Masseri?
Yeah, I have a question on page C17.
Excuse me, before we go on, we didn't finish one thing, and that is, I believe that the right language with respect to consulting the tribes is consultation. And if we could standardize that language throughout the document. I think that's the right thing to do. It's the accepted word in state and federal documents as well.
Yes.
Commissioner James, and which one were you referring to specifically? And I just want to read one of these.
It was
I know
the,
there's several.
it was brought up by Dejmani. And do you know where you located that
Yes,
offhand?
it was, when we were, I'm sorry, can I? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Merceri. So on page C10, item 8, there was there was this language of should work with. And,
There's a should coordinate with.
should coordinate, oh, sorry.
Okay, and what's the word you wanted to?
I don't want to pick the word, I just want it to be consistent.
Okay.
That's all I was saying.
And
Because
my-
elsewhere in the doc,
It would be consult.
Go ahead.
Yeah, consultation, I think, is the correct word that's used generally.
yeah, and I think special purpose districts probably would be perfectly fine working for a special purpose district myself, so I think consult with would be fine as far as the special purpose district. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, we go ahead and take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have discussion about it. I mean, I think with the tribal, it's consultation is the formal term. And I think with some of these others, there may be slightly different implications. So we'll talk with the city planners, about that
Okay.
for,
All right.
non-tribal
Thank
type
you.
things.
Commissioner Masseri?
Yeah, I have a question on page C17. Number 9 there. So it mentions the protection and utilization. It's referencing resource lands, and it mentions agricultural, mineral, forestry, and fishing in the first sentence. And then in the second sentence, where it mentions a broad-based economy, it mentions productive timber, agriculture, and fisheries should be supported in a sustainable manner, but it doesn't mention mineral resource industries. Instead, I would think that we would want that listed in the second sentence as well.
Do you have that, Matt?
I do. Are you going to make motions on these, or how are you going to work that?
Well, I guess I'm starting with a question. Does that make sense to put
Yeah.
that in the
I think
second
that-
sentence?
I think it does. Yeah.
Well, I would make a motion for that, although I would like the correct term, because it goes agricultural, mineral, forestry, fishing, and then it switches to productive timber, agriculture,
Oh.
and fisheries. So I didn't know the exact right phrasing for,
Well, you could just say, insert mineral resource industries in second sentence, and we can kind of figure that out, the city county planner group.
it's like 2 people have their hands up.
Yeah, we'll just hold with that, Matt. I think this will be on, same topic. Commissioner Hanson, go ahead.
Wow, I finally got in.
Oh.
Anyway, thanks so much. Just a couple things. Back on impact fees, we are legally allowed to impose various impact fees, not just transportation, not just schools, et cetera. And so let's bear that in mind when we proceed with the rest of our business over this next year. And the other thing about this, reason the schools are laid out like that is the council already approved impact fees for schools maybe 8 or 10 years ago, but part of that initiative left it up to the county executive to develop memorandums of agreement with the various school districts to initiate this process. So I believe that's why more verbiage was left in that clause regarding schools, but there's nothing that's going to keep us from doing transportation impacts, stormwater impacts. There's several that are allowed for counties, not as many as in cities. So there's no reason that we can't be more broad in our vision on impact fees. Just a small comment on mineral resources. I also agree that they need to be exploited appropriately, but they aren't exactly sustainable industries, or because they don't regenerate. There's a finite amount of them, so maybe it could be worded in a way to acknowledge that.
Okay. Matt, did you get that?
Yeah, so you're gonna take a vote on that though, or?
Rather than the vote, I think, we voted and Commissioner Hanson, you said it pretty succinctly, and so Matt's gonna take that and incorporate that in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll get together with the city planners on all of these, so.
Okay. And then, Commissioner Eisenberg, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think one of the words we could use isn't, I mean, not to wordsmith or anything, but environmental justice. And I think Jim Hansen said it best, regenerative manner, because that is different than sustainable. Knowing that this is part of an extractive economy and still based off of fossil fuels. So my 2 cents would also just to be encouraging to use succinctly words that are also aligned with the Department of Commerce and other Washington State, I think PAIR from the Department of Ecology, which is using a pro-equity and anti-racist framework for their language. I'm not sure how to incorporate it in this particular number 9. I would just advocate and support Jim Hansen's wording.
Commissioner McFerry.
I'd like to make a motion that mineral resources are referenced in the second sentence of number 9.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hanson. Jefferson.
Yes.
James.
I'm gonna abstain.
Mosseri.
Yes.
Van Dalen.
Yes.
Eisenberg.
Abstain.
Fishmani.
Yes.
Barton.
Yeah.
Hanson. Passes.
I'm in and out. I'm voting yes.
Pass.
Commissioner Fishmani.
Adjacent to that, in the section 8, it starts on 16 and then goes on to page C17. I just want to make a note that this list, who's paying attention to this list? And if I recall, the port and its economic development capacity has its own guideline for development of economic development policy. And these pointers, these things aren't, I don't know if they're adding any value. I'm not sure we need section 8, and I'm not sure why it's there.
Well, I mean, I don't know why it was, it was originally put in for a purpose to, encourage certain types of economic development, and, it was endorsed, by the county council at some point, and the city and county planners group has reviewed it. So, I would prefer just to leave it in. I mean, if you want to make a motion to take it out, you can, but.
Well, no, but then the other thing is, can you try to make sure it more clearly lines up with what, because the port's guidelines for economic development actually have more content than this. And we're talking, I mean, it's like affordable housing is not in this list, for example. I mean, I would say there's numerous things that could be in this list that more effectively line up with what the community's real economic development objectives are. We obviously want to have the livability as part of economic development. Energy security reliability of the grid, is probably something that, you know, today's very relevant. So just, if you could take it back to the group to make sure that this is a complete reflection of our economic development priorities as identified by councils, cities and county councils, that would be great.
I had a question about that, or a comment, I guess. What is what's the actionable part of encouragement? I mean, it seems like if you're making rules, you want them actionable, and I don't know what encouragement would look like.
Well, yeah, I mean, the GMA says that there's one purpose to countywide planning policies, and that's kind of to govern, you know, city and county comprehensive plans. So what's put in the comprehensive plan. So, you know, encouragement is softer than, you know, shall or will or something like that. But it's saying, hey, you know, take a look at this and consider this when you're developing your comprehensive plans.
It just seems like that it would be consistent with the local comprehensive plan. Does that really need to be stated? I mean, it does need to be consistent, right? And provides jobs to county residents. Are we really making decisions at this level on that criteria? And does not adversely impact the environment? These are all, I see them as very non-specific and non-actionable. And I personally kind of favor taking it out. And I know that's not something you favor, but I don't believe this is meaningful language. And I think the more language we have that is non-meaningful, non-specific, and non-actionable, the less people are going to find it useful or meaningful. I think it degrades the document. Unless there's something I'm missing about what encourage means. I just don't know what that means. And they're really, those are difficult balancing points. It's just hard to know what, you know, jobs and adversely impact the environment. It's such a vague comment. I don't think it's meaningful. And I'm not saying we should vote on it. I'm just saying that that's my concern that I have, and you could share with your work group that there was a question about it.
I mean, there's a lot of general, sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
There's a lot of, I mean, this is comp plan document. None of it's specific. It's general by definition. For some reason, it caught my eye as being particularly vague and relatively less useful. So I don't know. I just am sharing that. I'm not stuck one way or the other on it. So I just saw that it seemed like renewable energy was almost like, oh, hey, support renewable energy. Oh, wouldn't that be great? But it doesn't really, it seems like this, you know, an ornament that you hung on the comp plan. So, so it did seem kind of flaky. Sorry, Matt. Okay, there's nobody else. I want to continue. I have one last comment. Go ahead. And I want to refer to page C22. Section under water here. Water, okay, item number 5. Now, I'll preface this by saying, Matt and Mark, you both, we've seen each other, particularly you and Mark. I used to be the PUD's representative on the Watershed Management Board. I've spent a lot of time at Watershed Management Board. I still barely know what it does. Barely. But I can tell you what I do know it does. It coordinates the activities of our local governments and tribal, the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack tribe, as it relates to protecting the watershed. There's It's a resource for bringing state and federal money into the community to protect the watershed. To do some long-term thinking. I don't see how that is at all a useful body as it relates to how it can solve water resource management problems for the county or cities. I don't see it doing that. And so I think we're using it as a placeholder. This language is a placeholder, but I really think we have a big problem in Whatcom County. We have an adjudication happening. We have a shortage of water. We don't have a way of allocating water as associated with development. We have this fear of ag land being because farmers can't get water rights, converting their land into a residential or, 5 acre, 10 acre, whatever, 15 acre, whatever you will allow. That conversion, and then PDS giving them an automatic private well, right? Like the kind of well I have, right? This is just a cheap kind of placeholder way of pretending you're addressing that problem, but you're not really addressing it at all. We really need some kind of a way for dealing with the water dilemma. We're talking about impact fees a second ago. I was thinking about, okay, impact fees. Every time we give a private well right to somebody, what's the impact on the whole? We pretend like that well from the private well comes out of, an infinite sink, but it doesn't really. We know that it's all water's connected. And so, where's the allocation impact fee associated with that? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that we should have an impact fee. I'm just saying that this is really just not really addressing the problem. The Watershed Management Board is such a high level body. They are not at all equipped to deal with these kinds of land use, water nexus with land use problem. So come up with something better. I don't know what that is. I'm leaving. But try to come up with something better.
Okay. Good comment. The WIRA one, watershed management or water resource inventory area, is a separate statute from the GMA. It's the Water Resources Protection Act, or Watershed Protection Act, excuse me. And WIRA one and the board is one of the very few, well, it's the only body in government, local government, that includes all the local governments, right? It includes the cities, includes the county, includes the PUD, and includes the tribes.
Mm-hmm.
And they operate under a complicated set of procedures, but they operate, most important of which of those procedures, those policies, is that they have to make decisions by consensus. So.
And they've done a great job of.
So there's no 8-1 votes, right? There's.
Yeah.
Gotta be unanimous.
And they've done a great job of doing things that protect the watershed.
Yeah.
And support, buffers and whatever, and bringing federal and state money into, and supporting efforts by the natural resources departments at the tribes, as well as
right.
efforts by the county.
Yep.
But this is you're asking for something very different here in terms of the support, and the Watershed Management Board is not equipped to help you.
No, I mean, true. And they ask us, we have conversations, because there's the board, which is the electeds, and then there's the management team that I'm on.
And that's what I was gonna go at.
Right.
Maybe if you figure out a way to make it the watershed management team, a watershed staff team, that may be a more, and then let them provide you a consultation of some kind on land use decisions relating to water.
But, I mean, even the staffs have to go up and get approval from the electeds, right, to do all that stuff.
So I would like to propose that you then go and make a separate request to the Watershed Management Board to add to their work plan. Because the watershed management board has a 5-year work plan.
Right.
And in that 5-year work plan, they identify different functions. And there is nothing that addresses land use in the 5-year work plan. Land use for road decisions. And that can be added. The 5-year work can and can designate that responsibility to the staff team or the management team, however it's decided, obviously, and that ultimately the oversight of that is at the management board. But the management board isn't gonna do that. And they can identify it as a task that the staff team and the management team and or the management team has.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to handle it.
I mean, and, you know, we do on an ad hoc basis, right? I mean, they ask me, when we're doing comp plan updates, they'll ask me, well, can you increase buffers or can you do things that would help salmon habitat in particular, or stream flow, low flow streams. Most of that focus has been, especially since adjudication started, has been the alternative path and what the executive proposed as the solutions table, right? Which was, it's parallel to adjudication. It doesn't replace it. It's not different. I mean, it's different. It's just assuming that once you're done with adjudication, it's from senior to junior, there's going to be some shortages somewhere. And how do we make sure that we could still provide water, for example, for agriculture and the farmers if they lose water rights? And that's what the solutions table was looking at, alternative solutions to maybe move water around, maybe save more water, water use efficiency, all that.
And I just want to be clear that this is proving my point. The solutions table did not receive the support of the watershed management board.
Because it didn't receive the support of the tribes.
It doesn't matter. The point is that it's not, that's why it's complicated.
Right.
Because these more, particular things, actual land use decisions, you're not going to succeed asking the watershed management board to address that.
Understood.
And we already have proof of that.
Understood.
Sorry, Chair, for that discussion.
I was getting an education. As some of you know, I worked in local government and more for my whole career, and I ranged from City of Everett, Virginia, and was even the assistant bus schedule manager for the 2010 Olympics. And so I was thinking about the word should, and the way should is to me, when I read it in one of those categories, and it's something, did you consider before you're done with your plan, you should consider this, and it doesn't mean you have to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's that you should think about it, or we want you to think about it. It may not apply. Now, when I'm working at the Olympics, there are no shoulds. They're all wills. And so, you will have a bus to take these athletes from here over to their venue. You will have a bus here that picks up this parking lot to take viewers, the public, to everything was a will. But when you get into, say, Whatcom County, City of Everett, Alexander, Virginia, they may have a variety of different things. And so you want to should to make them think, should we be doing that? But the answer isn't necessarily yes. That's how I view it. I should. Because in some situations there may be no, and some should be. Yeah. So.
And just to conclude, I don't have any proposed language modification. I just want to raise the issue for you to.
Yep. No.
Consider.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Commissioner James.
I just wanted, so I've been involved in the WIRA process for years. When I was a county health officer in Whatcom County for 10 years, and then since then, through the Environmental Coalition. This was intended to avoid litigation as a solution, because litigation is very time consuming and very expensive for everybody. And it was a reasonable effort to try to do that. It hasn't worked. I don't think it's going to work. And at this point, I think this is really a historical foreknote to what's going on now. But the solutions will come through litigation. That's the only way we're going to find solutions. All the parties have agreed to disagree and be disagreeable. And I think the only solution is in the litigation, and we'll come back to it and we'll have real answers. We'll have quantified results in a number of years, probably a decade, before that litigation is done.
20 or
So
30.
I think this really isn't looking forward. This is what happened over the past, I don't know how many years. And it's just an appendix, what's left over from something that was a good faith effort to try to resolve this in a more rational, reasonable way that didn't work.
Commissioner Jefferson.
I've, so I need to make a motion that we adopt I need to move that we adopt Lummi Nation's motion to amend section N.
Matt, can we look at section N?
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
But what is that? What is their recommendation though? I don't know what the motion is.
That we adopt, the motion, and correct me, Commissioner Jefferson, if I'm incorrect, but the motion is to adopt section N as it is. Am I correct on that?
Adopt Lummi Nation's motion to amend section N.
Okay.
And I don't have it pulled up. I'm looking for Lummi's right now. Hold on.
Lost.
Yeah, I'm lost.
I don't know where we're at. Yeah. That's the one that came in later.
It came in, this morning.
Did someone put up that?
I think,
Do you have that?
I'm getting it.
yeah, if you could send that to me too, I'd appreciate that. I don't have that.
I sent, I'll pull it up.
I see the ones for S, travel resources, but I don't see the ones for N.
Which one? Trying to see who sent that.
Oh, what I got was this one yesterday from January 22nd, which I printed out.
Which is for S, right?
Yeah, that's the only one I have.
That's the only one I have.
Was there another one that came in to you, Jefferson? Commissioner Jefferson? I only have the one that talks about, section S.
I'm going to correct mine in just a minute. I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull it up right now. It is S.
Okay, we already adopted that.
We did.
We already adopted that. That has already been adopted, Commissioner Jefferson?
That was the one on tribal cultural resources.
Yes. Thank you. I heard it. Thank you.
Sent out yesterday, yeah.
Commissioner Jameson, do you have more for us? Your hands up.
Sorry.
Commissioner Masseri.
I have a question on page C25. Number 3, where it mentions that the county and cities will incorporate comprehensive plan policies to support the net zero greenhouse gas emissions target by 2050, consistent with the Washington state targets set by the legislator. But then down in the rationale, it says it requires certain local governments to adopt the greenhouse gas. are we agreeing to something we're required to do or not required to do, or what exactly? Is that in there and saying that if we are required to do it, then we'll do it, or what is that saying?
Yeah, Lauren, if you can handle that one.
Sure. Hi, this is Lauren Clemens, Whatcom Climate Action Manager. The reason that the rationale for changes states that certain local governments need to adopt a greenhouse gas sub-element is because that requirement is based on population. So certain jurisdictions that are adopting these countywide planning policies are not required to have any greenhouse gas reduction policies in their comprehensive plan. Some examples of that would be like Nooksack and Everson are too small and they're only required to develop resilience policies. So we amended the language to say that there is a support for the statewide target, but not every jurisdiction is required to have any language in relation to greenhouse gas reduction.
So only the ones that are statutorily obligated will then have to do that. We're not obligating ones that potentially would not have to.
No, so that we're trying to make that distinction with the language.
Okay. Wasn't it under a 6,000 population?
I believe so. Yeah.
No. Any more commissioners? Yeah, do you have enough to work with?
I think so.
I have a question. Did we decide to do FutureWise next week at our next meeting?
Yes, my understanding was the city county planner group would review those comment letters and come back with recommendations on February 27th, along with the comments of commissioners here.
Just want to check. Thank you.
Since I came up and I won't be here for the next meeting, the FutureWise recommendations did seem reasonable to me. I don't usually say that, but these ones did seem reasonable. And the point of recognizing the not developing the floodplain certainly sound reasonable where possible.
And Matt, I have one, and I think I got it marked out here. Looking down the list, I have them highlighted. On J8, where it says Whatcom Transit Authority. First, I really like where you put in Whatcom Transit Authority, because that defines what they do, and I get kind of bothered with words that don't define anything when there's another word that will. So I like how you have that, but could we put right after that in parentheses, Whatcom Transportation Authority? Because the first one, the way you worded it describes what they do. The second one, if you look at it and you don't know, and you're reading this somewhere else, you don't know what that is. So I like how you did it. But can we just add that behind it in parentheses, their actual title?
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is incorrect. Maybe this was their title back in the 90s or something. So yeah, we can put Whatcom Transportation Authority. And your suggestion is to put that provides transit services, or?
It could be that, or I thought about one of them could be first, and then the other one could be in parentheses right behind it, and it defines it. And, perhaps it should have their title first. And then in parentheses, put, it has you have a Whatcom Transit Authority. Because it defines what they do.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that with the city planners, because I think that is I understand what you're saying. That's not the official title. That should be corrected. And they provide transit services, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Commissioner Masseri, did you?
You answered him.
Right, any other, comments, commissioners, questions? Motion? Matt, do you have anything else for us?
I don't think so.
Okay, and we do not have any unfinished business.
So I do have, we might fall not unfinished, but follow. I have a question. Do we know the date of our next meeting?
Yes, it'll be February 13th is the annual meeting.
Okay, and that's probably pretty well set because I already know I'll be out of state.
Yes, that is it, correct?
So if you could make a note that I just won't be here for that meeting. And my question would be, has it ever been moved to Wednesday or something like that? Not that I want to change everybody's plans, but I hate to miss a meeting. So I thought I'd ask the question now ahead of time.
The only way it could be moved is if a special meeting was requested and the chair would be the one in charge of that.
Okay, I just wanted to ask the question and let you know what, I know what my plans are a couple weeks from now, so. Okay.
Any other comments, questions? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, commissioners.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's been good. It's been fun.
So you've done it for 8 years?
Yeah.
I appreciate having you on it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
That's a long stretch.
Yeah.
That was a long stretch.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah. Clearly, there's a lack of appreciation.
Well, thank you. I'm definitely not the smart young man.
Thank you, Atul.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
We put in the request.
Over the last 4 years, it did so many.
Yeah.
The last where I looked like.
I mean, have it on.
No, I know.